Cue Zelda. Sarararan, sararan, sararan. Hola community, how are you? How you doing today in this very nice cloudy day here in Amsterdam? We are streaming live for the time 153rd. Well, today we have more announcements. There are releases coming up, but maybe not as soon as we expected. So yeah, that is one of the announcements, but also the there is a few other news regarding development, and there is new features in geometry nodes, in grease pencil, and not so much more actually. Focus has been on the release. But okay, when shall we just go ahead and just say it? How is everybody doing here in the chat? I'm watching you, I'm reading you, and also we're gonna be answering the questions like every week towards the end of the show. I've been personally being super busy this week. Well, busy, just obsessed with trying to get this community, this Blender.community website finished, or at least released. So that is giving us so much more time. So yeah, go Blender.Today to the Blender community website, where you can check on this thread by the Finn. Thank you for making the thread, and leave a question there, or also vote other questions so they get popped to the top, and we get to read them and hopefully answer them. I cannot express the excitement of the new website getting ready. It's so much better than the old one, than the current one here. I've been deleting so much spam, by the way. If you had an account that looks suspicious, this weekend I also spent quite some time banning accounts. What is an account that looks suspicious? Well, if you don't have any posts and only comments, thumbs up in some some other accounts, then yeah, that might be an example. So okay, announcements. First, do you know that Gleb Alexandro plays the guitar? Well, check out this video if you haven't. Next announcement of the day is that I don't know if it has been actually announced officially, as in released, as in send the email on lists.blender.org vf committers. Maybe I can just read it from here, but yeah, long story short, the let's see, new release date. Yes, actually it has. Thank you Dalai for doing it right before the stream. So yeah, hey, 2.93 will be moved to next week. There are some reasons. There is one crash that was reported. When was this reported? So let's see. I just want to have this. Okay, it was reported 13th of May, so not too long ago, and it still has to be fixed. So that's another reason why you should report crashes if you can, as fast as possible, whenever you can, whenever you have it, whenever you have the chance. There is way too many open reports, and also buildbot fixes. The buildbot for some time, actually, you know, builder.blender.org, for some time, for like few releases, the 2.83, 14 and 15, and also the other builds, where on macOS they were requiring at least macOS 10.15, but if you check the Blender requirements, you will see that Blender does not require 10.15. It only requires 10.13 and or 11 Big Sur if you're on Apple Silicon. But that was a big change also, among other ones. So yeah, new date. It will be pushed in next week, Wednesday. So yeah, save the date. Wednesday, there's a new Blender coming, 2.93. What else? That is one of the announcements. Then, you know, the summer of code. If you live in the Netherlands or in this area of the Europe, you may don't notice that it's summer actually. Besides all the cloud and raining and thunderstorm of the last week, we are in summer in this side of the hemisphere of the globe. And the Summer of Code projects just started, or is about to start actually next week officially, but the participants, 8 participants, have been announced and accepted with their own projects, so that it's pretty neat. You can actually check the list already. There are 8 projects. There is Imanshi Kalra has regression testing for geometry nodes. What does it do? This is maybe as a user, you're not gonna see this as a new feature, because it's not really. For the end user, doesn't feel like a new feature. However, this makes sure that every new node, every new feature added, in this case in geometry nodes, gets tested automatically. So the developers can run a script, or even automatically the computers can run a script and check that everything is okay. So for the user, it will mean more stable Blender in general, and in this case geometry nodes. Then video sequencer improvements. This one, look at individual strip previews and modification indicators. Yeah, that is pretty neat. Where is the I need to see the link. There was a link. This website is far from great. Sometimes I find it hard to find some like, where is the PDF of this? But basically the idea is to have strip previews in the sequencer, among other modification indicators. So when you're transforming, when you're doing any modification on a strip on the video sequence editor, it will be shown. But strip previews, you get the idea. It's just a thumbnail. It is a very basic feature that Blender didn't have ever, and it looks like it could be implemented eventually. Aditya Jipu, mentored by Richard Antalik, developer of video sequence editor. Fabian Schemp, he has been involved in the geometry nodes already. He's been committing some patches. He has some patches already in master, and he will be porting 4 modifiers at least. That's the idea, from the regular modifier stack into geometry nodes, so they can become more more flexible. So that will be a pretty neat exercise, and after that more modifiers could get in. So Ishbosamilla, continue develop of adaptive cloud simulation, also continuing from the 2 years ago from that project. Hopefully it will see the light. Sometimes the projects take time, you know. Line art modifier, that was also a which is now in Blender, that was also a summer of code project for 2 years, and some things take time. Curve improvements by Dilith Cody. So yeah, this one I haven't checked. I've been subject to a number of user requests or improvements in curves. A new tool that makes the workflow for dealing with curves much smoother by enabling the editing of curves using simple and intuitive shortcuts instead of taking multiple steps to achieve the same. Intuitive shortcuts, what is that? I wanna read more. Google will tell me where's the rest of this info. Okay, and I clicked and it took me away. And now it sorted the list. Separate. It resorted the list now, and now curves are here at the top, and then because now I'm in the organization and this is in the projects. Terrible. Regression testing, video sequencer, we saw this one already. Blender UV editor improvements, finally some love, and hopefully Siddhartha will, you know, sometimes there are developers that are contributing to Blender.Today that are that they came from Summer of Code projects, so it's always good to have this. Blender knife tool improvements as well for modeling. So modeling, UV editing, cloud simulations, geometry nodes, Blender video sequence editor. Isn't that great news? Well, the thing is, all of these projects, they need to be first developed and then approved and then make it into master. So there is a risk that some hopes should be kept too high. Hopefully yes, but you know what? You can keep your hopes high is on the new pose library that is coming to Blender 3.0. This is making use, is completely rewritten, the system is completely rewritten to make use of the new asset browser finally. So the asset browser, which it's in the experimental section of Blender 3.0, it's gonna be part of Blender 3.0 for sure. And the thing is that it was a bit too open in general. Like you can drag and drop objects, you can link, you can append, you can do a few. I think append only at the moment, but it was missing one specific example, and that is the Pose Library 2.0. Basically, just awesome. Just awesome. You have a list of, you can create your poses, and you can add them to this library as well. You can apply them, you can apply the mirror version of it. So this blog post is super cool, was written by Zebra, and it was super detailed, and check it out.
Here we see the 3D viewport on the left and the asset browser on the right. The asset browser is showing the animations category, which contains the poses from the pose library. You can select a pose and apply it, and enabling the flip pose checkbox swaps the left and right sides. You can also just double click to apply a pose. It's also possible to blend a pose from the library into the current pose. Left click to confirm. To see which bones are used in a pose, you can select or deselect them.
Perfect. Beautiful. Beautiful, very well explained, and that's how to use it. But also in the blog post in code.blender.org, you're gonna find how to use it from the viewport. And this is gonna be an add-on approach. It's gonna be on the sidebar, so it's gonna be a good example for other people making their own assets or that kind of add-ons, you know, to manage this kind of information in a UI list with a thumbnail, with an operator that you press and you can drag. Yeah, very promising. Oh,
and deselect operators.
You can select, deselect. You have right access, right click menu on, depending on the pose, in the UI list, in this list in the viewport. So you don't actually have to have the other editor open, the asset browser editor open. You can create via the action editor. This workflow could still use some polishing.
To create a pose from the action editor.
Like right now, you have to remove the active pose. You have to create a new one, apply. You have to name it, but it's not part of the creation. You actually have to go and name it. So there's still a lot of polishing to be done here, but it's in more than usable state, and the people at the Blender Animation Studio are using it. So it is getting battle tested already. Yeah, go read the blog post, super nice. And finally, another blog post that was done last week by Campbell Barton. It's outlining the project for speeding up mesh editing performance in Blender for reals. For reals, there is 3 developers. Campbell Barton, which if you don't know, he's been working on Blender and with Blender since forever, since Big Bug Bunny in 2008, probably before that, but he already worked at the studio as a developer, and he's worked on mesh editing at pretty much every area in Blender. He is leading the project. Also, we have Jeroen Bakker, another developer that's been working on Eevee stuff, Compositor, and Germano Calvacante, which is working on snapping tools in Mesh Edit. So yeah, pretty dream team, quite the dream team to tackle this. Also, again, in code.blender.org. Bunch of communication going out these days. Okay, shall we get to it? Shall we start the process of being mind blown by geometry nodes in this case? Let's see what's new in Blender since last week. What changed since last week? Well, quite a lot has changed, especially in the geometry nodes corner, because there is a new nodes evaluator. What does it mean? For the end user, you're not gonna see like geometry nodes evaluator, what is that? Well, it is pretty epic. So basically, when the prototype, or when the first version of the geometry nodes was added, people were complaining about performance, that it was slow, but also a bit limiting in some aspects when want to work with other node system, or it was doing work when it shouldn't, for example. Wasn't very smart. But yeah, that was the prototype, or the very first version. For this new system, new architecture in general, a lot of those limitations are gone. So basically, you can see here, geometry nodes, new geometry nodes evaluator. So yeah, the old geometry nodes evaluator was quite basic and missed many features. It was fast to make at the beginning, but the new one supports parallel execution, so multi-threading, so you can execute multiple nodes at the same time. And also lazy evaluation. What does it mean? Well, if you don't, for example, there is one particular case with the switch node, that the switch node was calculating both inputs previously. So if you had here, for example, if you had the switch node, no matter if you had whatever you had selected as an output, it was always gonna be calculating both. So yeah, not very ideal. Great functionality, not very ideal, because yeah, it takes more power, right, to compute both. Yeah, that is no longer the case. Now this actually supports lazy evaluation, and this can be extended to other areas as well, to other nodes as well. And in some setups, the speed up is quite big. In some others, it's not so much. It depends really on your setup, because there are a few nodes, like the OpenVDB nodes, that are already multi-threaded. So there's not much to speed up in there. And there are other nodes that are just slower, just by definition. Boolean, for example, or the attribute proximity there, and they are slow. So there's not much to optimize in there, and they could be the bottleneck of big setups. But in general, it should be faster, and it should be more future-proof. And also, it opens the possibilities for so much more in terms of what you can do with nodes. Such as, let's jump right into it. Okay, first, thanks to this new evaluator and other updates and tweaks in the under the hood of the geometry nodes world, it's that now, for example, when you join geometries, when you join object A and object B, let's do it. So let's say, well, if you join two objects, for example, here, now they have their materials intact. They are kept intact, so they can be used as, well, I have a lot of objects here. So for example, here, if I add the object info here, and then I join this, I think we don't have the node wrangler yet, but it will come eventually. So okay, so I put the monkey here, and I'm gonna move. Okay, so in this case, if my monkey has a material, so let's say it has a material that is red, and I need to make it actually red. There you go. You see, and the cube, I'm gonna make a material that is green, and I may actually make it green. And now, when you join, it actually joins properly. It keeps the material of the other objects intact, and last but not least, it adds support when you apply the modifiers. Now the materials are actually preserved. They work, and not only for apply modifier, but also for the operator for visual geometry to mesh. Again, super important to keep this working and opening the doors for, yes, new nodes. Let's say I have another node, another material that I'm not actually using, but it's a material called blue, and let's make it actually blue. So yeah, let's say I want to use a material, but I want to use it in here in my geometry nodes setup. And you can actually, now you can do it. There is a, do I have a sound for like a new node alert? Or you people, you should in the chat, you should do like a new node alert, new dance node or something like that. You know, not every day you get a new node. Well, kind of. So yes, add material assign. You can assign a material in this geometry. So for example, instead of green, I want to have it, I don't know, let's say blue. So I shall select the material blue and then bam, it's there. It works. You can also filter by a selection, so you can have a part of your mesh that you have with a different, for example, yeah, anything basically, like a mask. There you go. That's Folk is doing the new node warning, new node alert. Hey, thank you everybody saying hi. Shield, how are ya? Node Wrangler, please. Yeah, that is coming, by the way. And it's coming for 2.93, hopefully. Now that we have a bit more time to release, it might make it in for 2.93.0. So it just needs testing. I need to test it, but also, you can also test it, right? You could go and test it. I think I have the task somewhere here, or I can paste it later, but here, Node Wrangler update. You know, it also helps when other people test from the community. Node Wrangler update geometry nodes D9748. If you are a pro user of geometry nodes and Node Wrangler, test it, please. Okay, so now you can assign materials and you can limit it to a selection. You can have a, does it work if I make like a vertex group and then I assign this one face to the vertex group and then I choose the group? No, I need to replace maybe the other node, because in here it's not gonna do anything. Shade smooth, it's in every face. What if I make this face smooth? Holy wow, look at that. I'm using the smoothness. Oh, that's super cool. Wow. Okay, so if instead of this it was, for example, a cylinder, for example here, and then I use shade smooth. But what if I use shade smooth with auto normals? Oh, I made a patch once that it will set this setting, the auto smooth, from the menu here, and I never committed it. Well, I never made it up for review. I should put it out for review. But yeah, basically you can set a material based on the shade smooth, yeah, or any attribute basically. Material index, well, material index, you have to specify which material index. But the normals, what is that gonna make? The normals, I mean, it's always if it points one way or the other, right? If I do Shift N or Alt N flip, no. How would it even? Sorry, I'm usually testing things here without even like knowing if they're final, if they're ready to be tested, or also sometimes it's just me being stupid. For example, okay, now I want to assign here. Last week I was showing a new node for curves. So I was showing how you can do now curve to mesh, or resample curve, and how you can see the attributes of a curve, but I was not really I was converting the curves. I was using the curve to mesh, and I was expecting the mesh result to show curve attributes here, and that doesn't make any sense, Pablo. So yeah, that was my fault. I'm sorry. But yeah, actually just to see it working, just to show you and make myself amend myself. Okay, so if again, I'm using the convert to mesh, and now resample curve. Let's see, for example, and I should see the curve spline point? No, again, I'm not seeing it. Do I need to be connected to the end? Otherwise, it doesn't get evaluated. There you go. Tilt and radius. Ah, because I was in the evaluated. Ah, there you go. Tilt and radius. These are the values from that curve. And if I tweak the radius, like if I pin this and then tweak the radius, I should see the radius. Ooh, look, increasing. Bam. The radius, remember, it's the Alt S that you can do with Today I am in very demo mode, I think. I'm just playing with Blender. I hope that's okay with you. Okay. Next update. Well, it's another update in terms of the geometry nodes project. So let's get rid of this. Let's go back to where we were. There is another new node that is not only material assign, but you can do material replace. So if I have, for example, in my material, in my object, I have green, but I also have, for example, these faces. Let's do some here. Let's do here another material, for example. In this case, it's gonna be green. But because I'm replacing it here, okay. So what if I want to replace the material called green with red? There you go. I have now red. And that's how you can replace old materials with new. We need a way to make new materials though. I think here, when you assign the new one, you need to have the material made somewhere. So you have to make it available maybe here in the materials list. Otherwise it's not gonna be available on the list. So I don't know, do you think we need like a new node for material create, or is it better to have it as part of... Nah, maybe it is, because you would only do it once. Then you need a new input material, and then in the input material you, yeah, I know, like here making a new one perhaps. No, because you can't even change the settings. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I don't know even how other softwares deal with this. You need the material input exists actually. Hey, pictures. There is a material input, and with a new socket color. If you see, it's the same socket color as used here in the materials for consistency. I swear it's the same color. I picked it. I choose the exact same color. But yeah. That's how you can create. And also, thanks to this, when you group a material, you can expose it. And also, because of that, you can expose that in a modifier. So it will be available in the modifier list when it works, when it actually works. Missing property for input socket material. Yes, I know. Not there yet. But you can do with objects, eventually with materials, I guess. Yeah. Okay, at least this only shows the other ones. That would be cool. What other improvements material replace? And there is support for dynamic attributes on curve splines. What does it mean? We can read the commit log by hands. So with this patch, you will be able to add and remove attributes from curve data inside of geometry nodes. The following is currently implemented: adding attributes with any data to splines or spline points. Spline points are the control points. Support with for working with multiple splines at the same time. Interaction with 3 built-in point attributes, which I believe they are tilt, radius, and position. Resampling attributes in the resample node. And the following is not implemented yet with this patch. So joining, you cannot join yet attributes. Domain interpolation also, and the more efficient way to call attributes operation per spline. But overall, it's quite changed. Now you can actually add attributes and deal and change the interact with the built-in attributes. So this is really expanding what you can do with curves. Have anybody tested it out there? Erin, are you there? Erindale, are you watching this? Have you tested it? That will be pretty neat to see. You know what else is pretty neat to see? Eevee news. There is one improvement in Eevee, actually contributed by the community. It's support for a node that already existed but only on Cycles. Now supports with Eevee. It's called wavelength. Do you know the wavelength node? If we search like Blender wavelength node, you're gonna find in the docs the Cycles version. It says Cycles only, but this will be updated because it's also Eevee now. So you can use the wavelength to, well, the same way you would use it for regular Cycle stuff. It's slightly different though. It is a little off from Cycles, but yeah, it's similar to how the black body works. Slightly different. So thank you, Damed, for working on this. 2001. Is this the year you were born? Feeling old mode. Super nice to see. I think I've seen you contributed in the past, but what else have you done? Updated the diff freestyle UI upgrade. Yeah, you did the UI upgrade actually. I gave you feedback on this. How is that coming? He was updating the whole UI for here. There you go. Awesome. I give you the notes on the chat though. They're not here. I should post the notes here. Otherwise it looks like I'm not working. But I swear I am. Okay, there. Cool. Next in the list is Grease Pencil news. There is a new modifier. Again, new modifier alert. Contributed by Gaming Wu, developer of line art. He added the length modifier. So what can you do with the length modifier? Well, let's try it here. Let's do the same example that he did there, but in a new in a character. Let's see. There's a monkey. So I have the monkey. I'm gonna swap to the other side. Let's add a modifier, and it's called length. Here, lattice length. It's even sorted correctly. There you go. So you can extend, I guess, mode relative or absolute. So relative keeps the previous length and then applies something on top of that, so you can extend the end or the beginning of each stroke. Oh, there you go. So you can actually make it grow. Wow, this is super cool for... Okay, now I want to limit it to one layer, the lines, only the lines. There you go. Ah, that's so cool. This is borderline motion graphics style, right? You can make things draw. Ooh. That's so cool. And of course you can animate this, right? Yeah. Insert keyframe, then over here, make it like that. And then so automatically added? No. Insert replace keyframe. No, I want to add a keyframe. Because I'm not seeing the... Here, I need to go to the dope sheet. To the dope sheet. There you go. So now... Oh, nice. That's so cool. It makes it like... It's like a build modifier, but better in this kind of type of animations. Absolute. What else? Overshoot. What is overshoot? Let's see. Defines how precise must follow the stroke trajectory for the overshoot extremes. You know, something you can do if you're a native English speaker and if you want to help with Blender but you don't know how and you want to maybe look at the code. You can just download the Blender code and without knowing any development, without any development experience, just search for the text of the tooltip that you think it's wrong, especially if you're a native English speaker that is not dyslexic. You could help with that because there are many areas in Blender where we try our best, you know, but it's it's tough. But not only in Blender's code, in the website, in Blender.org, and everywhere, any website that we make, just report those because You know, maybe we're trying to look very serious and how we do things right, and then we make grammar mistakes. And yeah, it doesn't feel great, because I personally, in Spanish, I'm actually very strict with my grammar in Spanish, but English, it's another story. Let's see, speed up occlude eraser. The occlude eraser is now faster thanks to this commit by Antonio Vazquez, based on a solution by Philip Ozer. So thank you, Philip. So yeah, faster occlude eraser, and switching into the, let's call it potpourri section, because it's a bit of everything. So first, asset management. Now the thumbnails for the objects include the colors and the textures. What? Use textures and shadows for automatic object previews. Eesh, this is this better be managed well in terms of performance. What if you have 8K textures in all the objects? That's a good test to do. Okay, so objects may be important to be able to identify an object. They're also, yeah, textures may be important, and it makes sense, right? Right now, if you have any type of object, it wouldn't keep the, and if you make this object an asset, like, let's see, do I have any object? I have, oh, I have Arendelle still life geometry here. Haha, nice. This is a spoiler alert of the object. Well, this is the old, but this is gonna be available in the Blender.org website. So, and this and the other one, the actual splash screen. So what if I make this as an asset? What happens? Blender, tell me. So mark asset, and then in the asset browser, okay, no textures. Maybe because I'm not in the render view. Oh no, this is cycles. Eek. Maybe I shouldn't do it in here. But okay, no, it seems fine for now. Okay, so maybe I'm missing something then, because it here says texture may be important to be able to identify an object. Automatic previews, or maybe it's for the assets but not this particular. Interesting. Or maybe I need to switch to render mode and yeah, hope for the best. Next in the potpourri section is that gltf exporter now supports an option to only export whatever is visible, renderable, or active collection. So more flexibility to export your gltf, and a very welcome update to the edit linked library add-on. Have you ever used it? This add-on is amazing. It's something that Blender's asset browser will probably replace in the future. But basically, it's a very simple add-on that whenever you have a linked object, so well, this is not linked, but imagine if this object was linked, then in the sidebar it will show a button where you can open in a new Blender, and you click it and it opens the linked library, so whatever this object is coming from, in a new Blender that you can tweak, save, and then come back. It's super cool, but this functionality is already implemented in the new asset browser, so eventually it will be there. I will use that, I guess. For the time being, it's a great add-on. You should try it. It's built in Blender and now supports linked node groups. So if in the node editor you had, for example, a group of nodes that is linked, that is coming from somewhere else, from another file, in the sidebar you're gonna find a link to open the original blend file. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? That's super great. And you know what else is great is the last item of the day. I'm not gonna I talk too much about CyclesX, but it's always good to mention that it keeps getting faster and better by the day. one of these commits from last week made it so the viewport response is even more responsive by having something that is called like early cancel in GPU rendering. So when you're using GPU, the cancel operation is not when you just cancel the render, but it can be canceled by other operations. So when you move, you need to cancel an operation to start another one, right? So in this case, the cancel part went from 0.6 seconds, which is super fast, less than a second. It's like, this is immediate. 0.6, it's immediate. But you know what else is more immediate? 0.01 seconds. Yeah. That's fast. That is super fast. So what does it mean? Well, less latency in the viewport navigation. So when you move around, it's gonna be even faster. And a bunch of other changes, improvements. The mega kernel is gone. The compiling of the kernel for like when you're using optics, for example, is super fast now. It's less than a second in some tests. So yeah, pretty good news. Let's go into the sections, the sections, the answers. So thank you, Flynn. I'm gonna upvote your post. In the future, in the new Blender community, by the way, this is called like, it's just a like. We split the upvoting with the downvoting. You cannot downvote anymore. You will be able to like. Do you miss that? Just let me know in the comments. The downvote. Do you miss that? Do you think we should downvote? Right click select has downvotes, don't worry. But posts, like on Instagram, you can only like. On Twitter, you can only like. And things that you don't like, they get down automatically. So do we really need a dislike button? For controversy, maybe? Blender Defender asks the first question of the day. Hello, Pablo. Last time you finally answered my question, sorry, about BlenderToday streams in different languages. Thank you. My question is, what tips would you give to people that want to start a stream in their language? For example, if I wanted to start a German stream, BlenderToday. Holy sh! That is BlenderToday in German. Today, yeah. Wow, it's very different. I thought because in Dutch is vandaag. Wow. I mean, I know there are different languages, but usually they are, at least to my eye, they look very similar. So yeah, BlenderToday. Which community should I use? All three German communities that are listed on Blender.Today look quite confusing and not like something that is helpful for a questions thread. Well, you can use BlenderToday. That is fine. In the future, we can make a community for BlenderToday. But for the questions thread, feel free to do it in BlenderToday. BlenderToday is an open platform for everybody. So don't, yeah, feel free to use BlenderToday. It's no problem. Maybe add like a German flag or something at the beginning of the tweet of the thread so people see it. But eventually we can make a community here like BlenderOje, BlenderOji, BlenderActu, and the Blender, however that is said in Greece. I have to ask my friend Alex how to say in Greek. How do you work when you organize your stream? How do you filter which patches are important and interesting to show? How do I filter? Well, I use my criteria. I don't filter. I don't list patches. You know what I do basically? I get the commits on my email, my inbox. I have a filter where they're out of my inbox and they get into a label in my account, in my email client. But what you can do, you can just simply go to Diffusion, Blender, History, and then read every commit. And yeah, that's what I do basically. I go through every commit, and if I find it, I filter by fixes. I remove the fixes. I don't mention fixes unless they are very important. Cleanups, I filter them out. However, I mean, you can just mention what to, you should do it after Blender.Today, and then at the beginning at least, and then use whatever I'm saying as a base, and then you can mention other stuff. I try to keep Blender.Today only what is in master, no patches, no branches. CyclesX is an exception, but in general, only what is available. And if I mention add-ons, they have to be coming with Blender, or be freely available. Also, do you what else? What's your setup while recording, streaming? Do you use, and which hardware do you have? I use OBS. So this is my OBS setup. OBS is free and open source. Everybody's using it. It's awesome. Works on Linux, Mac, Windows. It has more features on Windows, of course, for some reason, but Linux is pretty okay. What camera? Well, camera, anything would work. In terms of hardware, anything will work. I have an AT2020 microphone and a mixer, a Yamaha mixer. You can use anything really that takes an XLR input. The camera, I'm using a Sony RX100, but you can with an HDMI input that connects to a Elgato Cam Link that takes care of converting the signal from the camera to the computer. On Linux, it just shows up as a webcam. That's super cool. But it's a bit overkill. Like what I have here, it's very nice, but it's a bit overkill for the live stream. You can use something that is cheaper, and it's gonna look just fine. It needs to have good low light though. You better invest in more lights, better lighting than a better camera. Better lighting can make any camera, even a webcam, look good. Okay, next. Marcelago says, "Hey Pablo, I'm not a fan of downvotes. I'm not missed that." Hey, thank you. I was also checking here the people seem to be fine with not having downvotes anymore. Someone downvoted. You downvote. I will be down for Vulcan. Not many comments today. Downvoting is toxic. Oh, that is you. Downvote only for marking spam. Yeah, no, but in the new Blender, in Blender community. And do you guys wanna have you wanna be, like you wanna have spoiler Blender community? Or not? But should I? Maybe not. But basically, on Blender community blog posts, you have a then here maybe you have a report button on each post. I cannot report my own points, but yeah, basically you have here a report that you can report as inappropriate, copyright infringement, other. Maybe we should add spam here as one of the reports, and then you write the report and that's it. So yeah, that is a bit of how the new Blender community looks like, and already has report for anything. Hey Pablo, hoping you have a great day. Thank you. Long question. I recently started doing architecture in Blender, and I quickly noticed that it can be very hard to make whole objects that need different modifiers for certain parts. For example, I need to make an escalator, but only the stairs need solidify an array modifier, but not the rest. I'm aware that this can be done with vertex groups. However, I run into bugs and it's not the most intuitive thing. And does not exist on every modifier. Would it be feasible to make some sort of host object that can nest multiple other objects? But I don't, why don't you make, okay, like a parent object with the ability to add globally modifiers to the slaves. Additionally, enable mirror and array modifiers for things like lamp. Well, for that, this could be tackled with the equivalent of geometry nodes, but for collection nodes. like collection modifiers. So instead of having an object, but on a collection level. But yeah, host object. It's very hard to make whole objects that need different modifiers for certain parts. Well, modifiers are on an object level. So if you need different objects, the different modifiers for certain parts, it's better to just split the objects into their own objects, right? Into their own, the ones that need those modifiers, instead of having all in one, because it can be slow to have one object with all the modifiers and then just use masking to remove some parts of all or not. Yeah, I would recommend to use to split your objects into when it makes sense, right? To have their own questions, their own their own modifiers. I was reading the questions and then I thought of the word questions. Hi Pablo, hope you're having a good day. I am. Sansuls, thank you. This is very simple feature request, something that Blender is missing. No, not this time. Enough with the feature request and problems with Blender. Everybody needs to calm down. It's okay. I mean, it's not the place for feature requests, but it's good to mention, at least maybe if I know that they're being worked on or not. Yeah. Take a sip of your drink. I did. I appreciate you for taking your time to interact with people who use the tool to create amazing stuff. That's very nice. Thank you. I have never seen anything like this before. You see, there's people missing out. Everybody should be doing this. Adobe, what are you doing? Unity, Unreal does it, right? They do live streams, but I don't know if it's like every week or not. Take some rest, eat some good healthy foods, and stay safe. I was watching a really old video before the release of 2.8 and you looked absolutely exhausted. Before the release of 2.8. Well, yeah, 2.8 was tough times. We were not only, well, it was before Corona, right? So we were also traveling and yeah, 2.8, bringing people here, meetings. It was quite hectic. Now I would say everything is more chilled because there is really not much to do other than sit in the computer and work. Okay, if I really need to ask for something, is there any approximation when physics, fluid, rigid body, cloth nodes, and particle nodes will get implemented? And with the node-based physics, will we finally get an organic rigid body fracture solver modifier? I was super excited after seeing the particle nodes. I couldn't believe that I was seeing with my eyes. Everything was so responsive and the nodes and the UI is so good, and then it got postponed. But I'm really looking forward to that. Also, I found this video of particle nodes on the Blender Dev channel. Well, you may be glad to hear that the developer that made particle nodes or simulation nodes, he is the one leading the geometry nodes project. It's all in the same ball, on the same park, I would say. This will come back for sure, and even better, because with all the knowledge from geometry nodes and with everything that is being worked on already for shading or for material assignments, for dependency graph, the restructuring of the code, it's just gonna be more awesomer. We really love it if you guys make official cycles and Eevee reels every year. You know, that is something that the Blender community could help and will be a huge help. So again, today I'm actually like asking you more stuff than when you ask me. So I already asked you to fix all the tooltips in Blender, okay? If you're a native English speaker, if you're a video editor, or if you're around in the community, in the forums, and you see work done with Blender and want to make a reel or something like that, you know, feel free. 1 minute, epic music. If you need help with picking up stuff, artwork, that would really help. So that's another way to contribute to Blender, making PR content, which I should be doing, but also doing other stuff. Thank you for the recommendation. Okay, so Next question. Is there a chance we see the anti-aliasing for edit mode verts like we had in 2.79? Well, we do have nicer wires. 2.92, nicer wires, no anti-aliasing for vert. Oh, vertices. Oh, wow, I didn't even notice that vertices were not being... should be possible. Any progress on bringing 1 pixel brush back? It's been possible to do pixel art in Blender for almost 2 years. Impossible? Hey, wait, I didn't know. How come? So, what is the limit on this? What is the answer of the user? I think the AI mask and generation code is correct. So this is Pablo Navarro in 2019. That's a very long time ago. He did a 1 pixel. So the problem is that, okay, so it's known by the developers, and at the end, well, even Myth is here. And then, okay, what is the last update? Okay, March 15. It's still not possible. You can find the solution here. No, that information is false. Pablo Navarro already acknowledged that turning the radius into diameter for a brush is the way to go. So, hey, there is a patch. So, yeah. So it's being worked on, right? Hey, look, hey, January. Okay, without thinking too much in the implication, this can break a lot of things in multiple areas. Oof, okay. So it is being looked at and what are the following steps? Implement a pen tool in 2D texture paint, which selects and paints full pixel without any kind of fall off. Okay, that is the way to go. I think having a pen tool. Yeah, a new tool basically. So you could do that. A new tool. It wouldn't be breaking anything. So yeah, that sounds good. Next. Malars. Hi Pablo, question. I changed CPU to a Ryzen 9350. Wow. Fancy. And I think that the decimate modifier is still slow and do not use multicore. Probably the decimate modifier is ancient. I use it to decimate from 10 million to 800 to 1 million, and it takes, yeah, comparing to my old cheap CPU that has only 3 cores. Yeah, it's not, it's probably not multi-threaded, and no, there's nothing you can do, and more RAM is not gonna help here. So yeah. The Flynn, so yeah, so basically it has to be, yeah, re-implemented basically. Maybe another, maybe it's a good task for the developer. It's very, for a new developer, right? Since it's very compact. Okay. What is going on in the chat? There's a big discussion. Is everything okay? We need the real. Can I use Blender without graphics cards? Well, without a dedicated, you can use, if you have Intel integrated graphics card, it should be fine. You can read the list in the Blender.org or requirements page. You can find the list of Intel GPUs that are supported. So Haswell architecture and newer. So basically anything that is 10 to 8-year-old should be supported. Okay, the Finn says, hi, thank you for your great streams. Thank you. Are there any plans to bring the C++ API back to Blender? Back? Was it ever been one? Would make some add-ons much faster than using a Python wrapper. I know this is not an easy task, but it will make Blender more attractive to bring to big plugin developers. No plans that I know so far, but there's never been a C API in the recent years, at least. But yeah, what some people do is use Python, C Python. Michael Solo again, Nov. Hello Pablo, have a nice day. I want to ask about future plans. When will we be able to use geometry nodes generated data in materials, not in the geometry itself? What? You can already. You mean geometry nodes generated attributes in materials? You can. Only on cycles at the moment, but not on oh wow, okay, got reset. Another question is related to HDR displays. When you're trying to run Eevee in a full screen 4K display with some effects like glow, I still have low performance comparing full HD. I wonder if it would be great if we can reduce resolution for Eevee viewport as it can be done with cycles. It's a good idea. I don't know if it's in the plans even, but yeah, it's a could be a good way to tackle this. I don't know what Cleman is working at the moment. Probably on Vulkan porting. CyclesX. I think. Okay, I'm gonna answer all the questions, even though we're a bit past the time. Hi Pablo. Last week I suggested to enhance the non-linear slider feature with my pressure-sensitive slider proposal. I couldn't reach out to Weasel, the developer, not a Weasel, the developer of it. Could you poke him and ask whether he would be interested to implement the pen pressure sensitivity mode? No answer. Activity on dev talk. Well, I mean, if you already tried to get in touch with him, I don't know what else. Like, what else could I do? I would probably try the same as you. But yeah, it's a 20-year-old 3D art. What are 20-year-olds doing nowadays? Are they going to school at this time of the year? Where is he from? Germany? Yeah, in Germany. I don't know. It's school open for... I'm not sure because I am from Argentina and the school goes different than in the northern hemisphere. You know? We have holidays during Christmas and New Year's. So... instead of starting, where does it start? September here, we start in February, March. Okay, Nuno. Okay, 2 more questions. Hi Pablo, love the new work on CyclesX. I was just wondering if there is any. Oh, whoop, I messed it up. And now there will be more questions, and I don't have time to answer them all. Okay, actually no, there is not too many questions. It was Nuno, right? I love the new work on CyclesX. I was wondering if there are any chances it gets into Blender 3.0. Also noticed someone out of the core team took the task of implementing light linking feature. You will love if this gets special attention from the core developers. Well, that is if that is the case, then yes, I missed this. Who from the core team? Correct? That would be amazing. Core like light linking is on the top of my list, and when Blender Internal got removed, I was already. It's like, okay, if Eevee is gonna replace Blender Internal, it should support light linking, or Cycles should. And it's been a few years and we don't. So yeah, any chances to get into Blender 3.0? I don't think so, because Blender 3.0, like we shouldn't rush for CyclesX. The team is doing great, and 3.0 already has a schedule, although there might be a delay, you know, because 3.0 could be extended to allow for more deeper work and maybe rethinking some areas in Blender now that we're switching the big number, but that's still not decided, so it's hard to know. CyclesX only if it's really ready for it, but I wouldn't push it. Poor developers, you know, all the work they did in 2 months without anybody knowing about it. Now that everybody knows about it, they get all the pressure, so we shouldn't put pressure on developers. They are already doing an amazing job, so it should be out when it's ready, regardless of 3.0, 3.1, whatever. Everybody's using alpha builds anyway, right? So okay, that's it. And the last question by Chris Dude: is there any quick way to look up what nodes are planned out to debut in each release? No, really. At least in the upcoming release. I was just working on a project in 2.92 and was getting my feet wet with geometry nodes and noticed a missing functionality. I wanted to see if there was a node for it in 2.93. Well, if you go in the wiki, like as soon as a feature gets added, developers are supposed to add them to the wiki.blender.org Blender release notes. It's in the homepage here, release notes, or here in the sidebar. Go to the release and then go to geometry nodes, and here you can actually see a family picture of all the nodes coming to 2.93. This happens as soon as a feature gets added. You can see here all the new nodes coming. However, in advance is not always possible. Like in 2.92 at the beginning, you wouldn't know that all of these features will come in, because sometimes they are added by the community, and we don't even, they're not even planned. You know, you can't ask people to not build something. Sometimes it's just super cool. Sometimes it appears with the workflow. So yeah, it's not always possible though. But however, once they are implemented and once they are available in master, so in the build bot, you're gonna find them in the wiki. Okay, that is all. It's been extended way too much. How's everybody doing here? I need some air, I need some water. I need to sit down. I'm gonna live stream after this in Spanish. Remember, if you know anybody that speaks Spanish or tú hablas español, I do these live streams on Blender Hoy. It's called Hoy, like today in Spanish. Very original, Pablo. It's been quite a day. The release got postponed, I already mentioned, so that was last minute. So yeah, no new Blender on Thursday like it was planned, but next week, Wednesday. So exciting. 2.93 we'll see the light, and then all focus will go to Blender 3.0. CyclesX in 2.93. No, people, 2.93 features have been locked like 2 months ago. Or even, I don't know, something like that. No. We need a good graphic for that. That shows the development and when the features are locked, because yeah, it makes sense, right? People are not used to open source software development, especially if you come from other areas that are not maybe graphics design. Yeah, it's hard, right, to explain that what you see here is gonna be it was gonna be released in 3 months, and even though there's 2 months left for a release, the feature is not gonna make it to this release because it needs to be stable first, and so on and so forth. But let's try and make a difference and change this way of thinking of people of expecting new features, and it's actually a good thing. Expect more from the software you're using. Shall we call it a day? Next week, same place, same time. What do you say? I'll say yes. It's been great. Let's do it again, right? Say next week. I hope there will be new features coming up. Maybe the post library. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. See you next week, same place, same time, for another episode of Blender Today. Bye. On Monday, yes, Monday. Tuesday I have a wedding even. And Wednesday the release. Kill me. Okay, bye. Ciao.